So the Rangers split another one of these back-to-backs. That seems to be the norm, is win-loss or something to that effect. But definitely encouraging signs for the most part. So the Rangers lose a tough game to Philly, 2-1. Shesterkin makes his return and was just fantastic. Really, it was as if he never got hurt, and he was definitely tested. But again, I've said it all along, in terms of the playoffs, I just don't see that, especially this year. 56-game season, you're only playing in this 8-team division. It just doesn't seem as if that's going to be the case where they'll make it, and I still believe that. But to me, it's more about how they look and not so much about whether they make it or don't make it. Again, tough loss to Philly after they had beat Philly 8-3. After the game, the Rangers traded Brendan Lemieux to the Los Angeles Kings for a 4th-round pick. And my reaction to this trade is I'm not overly surprised. Obviously, it's not something that you necessarily saw coming. He was under contract for this year and next at a $1.55 million cap hit. While certainly not expensive, for the way he was playing, probably slightly overpriced. And I think that might have been a small factor into why they got rid of him, but really mostly there was just a logjam with Vitaly Kravtsov eventually coming into the fold. He's with the team, he's been practicing. I'm sure we'll see him somewhat soon. But even still, basically, there's a lot of, not all great, 4th line and bottom 6 players. And Lemieux, quite honestly, he's gotten, in my opinion, worse and worse as a Ranger. He's someone who I just didn't like his play. I complained about him a lot. So I'm not a big Brendan Lemieux fan. And so, unfortunately, it really just didn't work out here. And I'm sure he would like a bigger role. Maybe he'll get that with LA. Really, with the Rangers, he got some second power play unit time, which I don't even think he deserved, but that happened. And whereas last year he played a bit in the penalty kill, not at all this year. So again, his role was not much. He does add a physical presence, and he can be effective at times. Would you have maybe liked to have gotten a 3rd-round pick? I suppose. But I think, again, considering the fact that it's not like he was being paid $700K. 1.55 for what his role was. You get a 4th-round pick, totally fine with that. And so, wish Brendan Lemieux well in LA. David Quinn returns against Washington. And keep in mind, this was the second game of back-to-backs. They lost that game at Philly Saturday, and then Sunday they go to Washington. And so David Quinn returns behind the bench. Shesterkin, of course, is not in the lineup because he had played Thursday, played Saturday, just coming back from the injury. So he wasn't going to play on Sunday. But what was interesting was that they decided to go with Keith Kincaid and not Alex Georgiev. So I wasn't sure what they were going to decide, but I think to that point, Kincaid probably deserved to play over Georgiev if you're just going to be talking strictly who's been better lately. I'd give the edge to Kincaid, but it is concerning, I guess, as far as Georgiev's future. Although with that in mind, Igor Shesterkin, which we'll talk about more, clearly the number one and is already proving to be one of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League. But so Kincaid starts for Washington. Ilya Samsonov so Kincaid for the Rangers, Samsonov for the Caps, and Phil DiGiuseppe is back in the lineup, replacing Brendan Lemieux off the COVID list. And just to note, Brett Howden is still on the COVID list. So keep in mind that Brett Howden will probably come back into the lineup at some point, as well as Vitaly Kravtsov. So again, that's why there was such a logjam. So Rangers really, I'd say for the first 2 periods, were not playing great hockey. And the first period was scoreless. The Rangers almost scored. Mika Zibanejad, who to that point had really been playing some very good hockey, almost scores a goal. The puck actually goes off of TJ Oshie's face and almost crosses the goal line, but Dmitry Orlov saves it before it 100% crossed. It was like a 90% over the line, but didn't fully go over the line. So it's scoreless after 1. And again, the Rangers aren't really getting many shots on goal. They weren't really getting dominated to that point, but again, it wasn't really inspiring play. It kind of felt it was kind of a lifeless game. I mean, it was a 12:30 start, and there wasn't a whole lot going on, but then that would change quite a bit, where the Capitals would score 3 goals in about a 4.5-minute span in the middle of the second period. Tom Wilson getting the first one, Alex Ovechkin getting the second one, and that one went off of Fox, and then it went past Kincaid. Rangers would get a power play, don't score. Right after the power play, Tom Wilson scores again. So 3-0 Caps, ended 2. They would score another goal 5 or 6 minutes into the third. Evgeny Kuznetsov makes it 4-0. So you think, okay, this is going to be a blowout. Not so fast. Colin Blackwell would score 2 goals on his birthday. So 2 goals for Colin Blackwell to make it 4-2. And so I'll say in that game, especially with the fourth line scoring a couple of goals, Blackwell did mess up a bit on that fourth goal by the Caps, the Kuznetsov one, but I guess he made up for it. In that game, a decent performance from the fourth line, DiGiuseppe, Rooney, and Blackwell. But a few minutes later, TJ Oshie would make it 5-2. So any sort of momentum that they may have had would have seemed to have gone away, but the Rangers would continue to fight back. Alexis Lafreniere would score to make it 5-3. This was right after Oshie had scored. So good to see Lafreniere get on the board with a goal. His play has not been great, but again, good to see him be rewarded on the score sheet. The Rangers would get a power play with about 4 minutes left, and Chris Kreider would score his 17th goal of the season. So he continues to score goals. Wouldn't say he's done a whole lot else lately, but 17 goals is still very impressive. So that would make it 5-4. But like we've seen a lot this year, and honestly, they have to be the worst in the league, when the Rangers are trying to score a goal, they pull the goal, they're down by 1, they get nothing going. So they had a lot of momentum, right? I mean, they scored 4 goals in pretty short order, but then once it got time to tying it up, they really mustered nothing, and the Capitals would win 5-4. That was a game where I'd say for 40 plus minutes, nothing really going on, and then they got it going in the third, but they fell short. So they lose that one. Now they go to the Garden for the second game of this back-to-back. And my thoughts are, knowing the Rangers like I know them this year, I thought that they were probably going to win this game. And they eventually would, but it wouldn't start off great. And we've seen this too many times where they kind of just come out totally flat and not ready to go. Capitals took it to the Rangers for, I want to say, about the first 14 to 15 minutes of that period. And if not for Igor Shesterkin, who was back in net, Vitek Vanacek was in goal for the Caps, this game could have been really ugly. So Kevin Rooney takes a not-so-good penalty, a holding penalty, and in this game, that fourth line was not good. Phil DiGiuseppe would take a penalty later on, so the Quinn, I thought, was going to that fourth line a little bit too much. Like I said, DiGiuseppe, Rooney, and Blackwell, not a great game in the second game. But Oshie would score on the power play to make it 1-0. Then a couple minutes later, on a kind of a goal-mouth scramble, Nick Dowd would poke the puck in. Shesterkin tried to cover it, wasn't able to. 2-0 Caps, basically 4 minutes into the game. And they would get more chances, but Igor was up for the challenge. The Caps at one point were shooting the Rangers 9-0. But it all kind of turned on a turnover by the Caps where Philip Hedl, who has been mostly quiet lately on that kid line, is able to get a breakaway and scores to make it 2-1. And it would stay that way for a while. The score would stay 2-1, end of 2. And again, Igor continues to come up big. He's been unbelievable. And then all of a sudden, someone who I haven't named so far, Artemi Panarin, would explode in the third period. And that's the brilliance of this guy, and what makes him one of the best players in the game is that he can be doing really nothing, and then boom, gets 3 points just like that. So Zdeno Chara makes a bad play at the blue line, turns it over to Panarin, who gets it to Ryan Strome, And Strome passes it to a wide open Capo Caco, who puts it in to tie the game up fairly early in the third. So Strome extends his point streak, and Ryan Strome has basically been almost a point-a-game player this year. I think he's been better this year than last year, where towards the end, Strome was taking bad penalties, and I felt like his game was slipping. This year, he's been after a shaky start, really, he deserves a ton of credit because I think he's playing the best hockey he has in his career right now. So Kako gets the goal, which is really big and great to see, but it wouldn't stop there. There would be another turnover in the Capitals zone, and Panarin somehow finds Adam Fox. Great backhand pass by Panarin, and the key to this play was Capo Caco goes straight to the net, and it allowed Fox to move in all alone, and he's able to roof a backhander. Beautiful goal by Adam Fox to give the Rangers a 3-2 lead. Fox is third, and he continues his point streak. He is third among defensemen in points per game in the league, only behind Cale Makar and Victor Hedman. And he's playing 24 and a half minutes a night. Adam Fox is going to be in the Norris conversation. And I think slowly he was the star of the week in the NHL this past week. And I think soon he's going to start getting the credit that he deserves, because last year, all you heard about was Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes, and I felt like Fox wasn't in that discussion. There's no way he won't be now. So that would make it 3-2. And there were some dicey moments. Nick Backstrom would hit a post, but Brendan Smith springs Artemi Panarin for a breakaway. And we saw this, I believe it was against the Islanders early in the season. Smith to Panarin, breakaway, beautiful goal. 4-2 Rangers. Pavel Buchnevich would add an empty net goal to make it 5-2, and Buchnevich, like Strome, almost a point-a-game player. That would be Buchnevich's 14th goal of the season. He has taken his game to a completely another level, just so much better on the defensive side and just more consistency. He's been great. So the Rangers would win at 5-2. And again, the keys to this game, and I think just in general, is Shesterkin. He has a .925 save percentage, which it's tough to track in terms of qualified goalies, because obviously there's a lot of goalies that have only played 1, 2, 3 games. But in terms of goalies that have played, about 15, at least 15 starts, Shesterkin's about top 5 in league goals in save percentage. And he's looking like he's going to be a special goaltender, and Rangers fans are spoiled because, for him to ever be like Henrik Lundqvist is a very tough ask because, again, Lundqvist is going to be in the Hall of Fame. But Shesterkin is the goods. Yet on top of that, Artemi Panarin, who is third in the league in points per game. He has 32 points in 24 games. And again, Adam Fox, who's one of the top defensemen in the game. Not even to mention the fact, like tonight, Kako was really good. A lot of work to be done, but it's a night and day difference from last season. He was lost. He was completely lost last year, and he's a lot better now. And the goal differential tells a story. Not the whole story, but a lot of it, where they're, I think, among the top 10 in the league. And it is skewed by those Flyers games, for sure, but this is not a bad team. There's inconsistencies, and they need to learn how to win games. It's a struggle. But tonight's game was impressive. They had been 0-10 going into the third period when trailing. And now they finally got their first win. And they're 4-2 against the Capitals. That's impressive. The Capitals are first place in this division, one of the top teams in the league. Am I overly impressed by the Capitals? No. Maybe that's because I've watched the Rangers, again, beat them 4 out of 6. But it just goes to show that the Rangers can certainly compete with the best teams in the league. I mean, again, certainly in this division. And it may not add up to the playoffs, but they're certainly very close to getting there. And the future is extremely bright. It'll be interesting to see, what comes of these last 21 games. And now they take on the Sabres. 2 games at Buffalo. As it stands right now, Buffalo has an 18-game losing streak. But the night before they play the Rangers, they play Philly. And Buffalo just blew a 3-0 lead in the third period to the Flyers. So they're losing in all types of ways. And if you're the Rangers, you certainly don't want to be the team to, kind of end this losing streak. But we'll see. There's a chance that Buffalo could beat Philly the night before they play the Rangers. That'll be a very interesting storyline where if, let's say, the Sabres lost to the Flyers and they lost the 2 games to the Rangers, they'd be up to a 21-game losing streak. So it's hitting a point of almost historic marks. Again, another split for the Rangers. A lot of promising signs. And now we'll see if they can take care of business at Buffalo. I'll talk to you then.